We're live on Facebook. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. If you are, I'm just double checking. Okay, no, nothing's through yet, but when you are live, as we say, this is going to be discussion. It's going to be quite interactive. So if you have any questions, we will be keeping an eye on them, and let us know. So today I have Fiona from Figgy. Everybody, thank you. Oh, so we are coming through. So we are definitely on both cases.
Goodness me, sorry about that.
Oh, it's brilliant in your life, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've got Fiona Johnson from Piggy Goes to Market, and Fiona's going to be discussing with me about how to cut through the white noise of social media. On the subject of noise, I thought I'd got rid of the buzz. It's back. There is a slight buzz when I'm talking. I am in the process of getting that approaching to get that sorted out, but you know, just bear with it. It shouldn't detract from what Fiona's saying, which will be really fantastic and fascinating. So let's kick off. If Fiona, if you just want to introduce yourself, and we just get started talking about social media and how you can cut through that white noise.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Fiona Johnson from Piggy Goes to Market, and I am a reputation builder. My background is in public relations, which is more than just press releases. It's very much about your public face. It's all your content and everything that the public and your customers and your suppliers and your staff see. So hence, social media is a big part of that, because of course what you're putting out on your social media will affect your reputation, which will affect the customer relationship with yourselves. It will affect their trust and their loyalty in you and your business. And I wanted to talk to you about what I call the white noise. I wish there was a better term, but I can't think of anything at the moment.
I don't know, I think it's quite appropriate because white noise blocks things out.
I mean, at least everyone knows what it means. But I from talking to clients, there's a real feeling that social media at the moment is just this sea of white noise, and that sort of affects us two ways. Obviously, it affects us as business owners and how we want to get noticed and get the engagement on social media, but also it affects us as users. Because I don't know about you, but you go into that sort of shutdown mode and you do that sort of flick, scroll, and you're not engaging. And if you're not engaging, then you've got to make sure that you don't have that experience with your customers. I think the reason it's come about is obviously when we went into lockdown, absolutely everything went online, and not just going online, but it also meant we had more time to go online, and with everyone throwing everything into social media, I think also people then forgot there were other channels and other avenues that we could use to get noticed, but as everyone's screen time went up, so did all the advertisements and all the pay-per-clicks and things like that, because suddenly the bigger companies realized that that's where their audience were, and it was slightly panicking, slightly knee-jerky, let's get on social media. And so again, you've got to imagine this is all multiplied up. Of course, now we're coming out of lockdown, hopefully, and I think we're all getting a little bit sick and tired of social media as it was then, and people perhaps haven't kind of revisited their content or their strategy, and I think we're perhaps in this limbo where there is just this constant stream of social media with lack of engagement and lack of quality content.
It's just, yeah, so it's an overkill, it's as you were saying, everyone, that knee-jerk reaction. Just want to say hello to Nicola and to Rosie. Thanks for your comment, Rosie. Enjoy your lunch. As you say, knee-jerk, a lot of people would suddenly realize, yes, where are my customers? They're on social media. You know, a lot of people are in furlough. They'll be sitting, what they're going to be doing most of the day, spending a lot more time on social media, and as you say, there's just been a lot of noise, and you know, it's time now to revisit your content strategy and look at, and your overall marketing strategy, I think, and look at other ways. What else can you be doing alongside social media to enhance what you're doing on social media? So what tips do you have for that?
Well, I think I mean, if I stick with social media for the moment, and then we can move on to the other options that are available. I think one of the things to remember is that whilst you, and I don't want to put words into your mouth, but if you might be fed up with social media, it doesn't mean to say that your customers are. They might still be really enjoying Facebook or Instagram or whatever platform
or
you use. So,
LinkedIn or
yes, exactly.
Pinterest.
So
Yeah.
don't dismiss it. Don't write it off. Which I have to say I was tempted to do a few weeks ago. I just had enough and I was kind of unfollowing people. But actually, you've got to remember there's a huge audience still out there, so don't dismiss it. And I suppose that the way to start is revisit the basics. So go back. Have you got the right customer profile? Are you on the right platform? Be really clear on who you're talking to, with your customer in mind, so that you can make sure that your content resonates with them, and make sure that your tone of voice is the same that it's always been. So obviously be consistent. But also, I think you've got to be crystal clear on your ideal customer, and actually have clarity on your aims. So don't just post for the sake of it. Think about what you're trying to achieve. So is it actually is it a sale? Is it engagement? Is it just trying to connect with people because you're looking to do a collaboration or to get them onto a mailing list? So just, revisit and go back to the basics. What are your aims? And then be clear on your offerings, your messaging. Then when it comes to content, once you've got all those sort of clear in your head, you can start thinking about a content that really engages. So again, you're not putting out white noise of just, oh, have you seen this? Oh, I'm doing that. And become the person behind the brand again. I think that's the thing. I think we slightly go into that panic mode when we're trying to sell perhaps on social media. And again, the customer is just going to see through that. They don't want just ad after ad after ad. They want engagement. So just go back, think about quality content, think about engaging with your customers.
When you say about engagement, they want something of value, they want something useful.
Absolutely. So whether that's an offer or a competition, or it might be an insight into the service you provide, or a survey that you've run, or a blog topic that you're linking your content to, which will help them to, whatever your line of business is, to help them. It's always about helping the customer.
And again, just going back to tone of voice as well, and I think what flashed into my head as well is consistency as well. Not switching tone of voice, not switching messaging, who you're targeting. Your 1 minute one post is aimed at one group of customers, next it's at another, and it just gets confusing. Tone of voice for non-marketers, what can you explain what that means?
Yes, I suppose it's the language you use, but it's your branding tone of voice. So for example, let's just say you're in a very let's just say, I'm generalizing, but you're in an accountancy or in the financial world, you will have a very different tone of voice to somebody who perhaps is in a creative industry or is or crafting or retail or something like that. It's just the sort of language and the tone. So it all comes back to who you're targeting. Your customers, because your customers will read things differently, and you just want to make sure that the voice you use is one they will relate to. And it's all about relatability and about being true to yourself. So don't try and be something you're not.
Yeah, and I think what I wanted to add to that, because it's fresh in mind, because I've just written a brief for somebody and about for my own business, and for me, as I say, my tone of voice and about what I am about, a lot of people think, okay, strategy, corporate, stage, and I'm like, actually no, mine's all very much about making strategy, making it accessible, making it so to the small business people, to solopreneurs, so it's not just something that's preserved of boardrooms, and that the step doesn't get missed out. So mine is very much in, I'm not all dressed corporate, I don't come across corporate, and my language and my tone of voice is very chatty day to day, as opposed to using lots of strategy jargon, strategy language that only other strategists understand. So so it's about getting that tone of that, how the language you use and how you speak.
Yes. Correct. So it's not just that's a sort of a tip to everyone. Don't ever use industry jargon, although that might be the clients that that they know what you're talking about. But I think as soon as people read jargon, there's a disconnect. And again, Tanya, you're so true. You keep it real. You make it's in layman's terms. everyone can relate to what you're saying, because you make it easy for people to understand, and that is your style, your brand, hence your tone of voice.
Yeah, and not everyone will like that. And it's going back to the ideal client side of things. There will be some people who go, actually, no, that's too simplified for me. No, that doesn't sit well with me. But you know, that's not the type of person that I'm trying to attract. So again, it's understanding who you're trying to target, and talking to them in the way that they want to be spoken to, and moving talking about the bigger picture. So we've looked at social media. Now for me, I find that posts on social media that cut through to me are ones where I've actually experienced the company or the person elsewhere, not just online, not just on social media, because then they've created an emotional connection with me, and that could be through I've seen them talking at an event, I've seen them networking, I've heard a podcast, I've heard them on the radio doing an interview. There's one example that I included in a blog of my own recently, Mindful Chef. Now they're all over social media. Never would have found them on social media, never would have noticed them, although no doubt they have been serving stuff up to me. But I discovered them through radio, on a radio advert. Now I appreciate that not everyone's going to have the budgets that they have for radio advertising, but the point I'm trying to make here is that I discovered them because I now see, and you don't necessarily engage with, and not publicly, but I do engage in the sense that I do see and I read their stuff now on social media. But that original point of building that relationship with them didn't come on social media, it came elsewhere. So again, it's actually to get that cut through on social media, I think you need to also think about what else are you doing to build emotional connections, to get yourself known by prospects and customers. I don't know if you've got anything to add to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it comes down to touch points, doesn't it? And obviously as a marketeer, there are 7 touch points, and that's kind of more in the customer journey. But I think it even goes back beyond that. And if you think to perhaps who you follow, it's quite often not just because you happen to stumble across them, it's because someone recommended them, or because you read about them in the paper, or, as you say, heard about them on the radio, or you just it's the cross connect, and social media. Perhaps we all think of it as being the first port of call, because it is relatively, it's accessible to all of us, and it's free to use, and we all, because we're users, we think we can do it as well. But actually, you can't just do that on its own. It's got to be supported by the other channels, and often other channels will come first. So it might be that it's a blog, and then you think, I really like what they're saying, I'm going to look them up on social media. But the good thing about social media is the consistency, so that you're constantly in your customer's mind.
So you can actually use social media to build the relationship once you've got, so the cutting through quite often is actually off social media, but once you've captured them, then you can use that. And again, using the tips that you were given earlier is a way of actually just to keep noticed on social media, I think. And I think you make an important point there, you can find referrals, word of mouth, to actually use as a means of finding out about people, and then social media supports.
I think word of mouth is one of the biggest sort of recommendations, if you like, and it's a bit like if you're buying something online, you always look at reviews. Well, I know I do, and if I don't, then I often sort of curse that I forgot to check the reviews. I might take them with a pinch of salt, but the point is the reviews are like word of mouth recommendations, because now everything's online, whereas before you would have spoken to a neighbor or a friend, and they would have said, have you tried this product? And again, it's word of mouth, and these referrals just count for so much.
They do. So making sure you've got plenty of social proof, what they call social proof, which can come in the form of reviews, testimonials. So making sure you're regularly collecting those as well. And a tip I have for that, because I think most people you will ask will be willing to do it, but why you don't quite often, and it's when I forget to do that, I won't get the testimonial back, and it's not because the person doesn't want to give the testimonial, they just don't have the time. So if you write the testimonial for them and then just say to them, can you review it, put it into your own words, you're more likely to get the testimonial back, because you're just you've done the job for them. So most people are willing to, it's just finding the time in our very busy lives. And as you say, that's very important, as well as a means of getting cut through as well. Is a very good review will cut through that noise as well. And just going back to what we were talking about, you know, the thinking about, it's not your, you know, your target customers aren't just on social media, just also thinking and mapping out, you know, what their day's like, where are they likely to be, what are they likely to be reading, what, you know, what blogs are they likely to be following, what podcasts are they likely to be listening to, what are they doing during their day, where do they go, what radio stations, what TV, what you know, what social media are they likely to be on if you're thinking about your channels, but again, what do they do in their leisure time, what places are they likely to be at, are there any ways you can actually market to them while they're in those places? So Absolutely. Just having to sit down and think about that, and thinking about how you can use the bigger picture to support your social media as well. So I don't know, have you...
Yeah, I was going to say, because I think with social media, you know that it's an inroad into people's homes, but actually we are still going out, maybe not as much as before, but I think you need to think about the journey that your customer might make. And I don't mean literally in the car, it's literally, as you just said, the day, and think of other clever ways in which you can target them. So maybe your target audience is mums and toddlers or something, but actually, you know, ballparks have opened again, or the play centres, so maybe there's something a collaboration you could do there. It's just it doesn't have to be social media. Or
the collaboration can be through social media, and again, that's another way of cutting through that white noise, through collaborating, through being posted on someone else's business page, getting guest blogging, that kind of thing. So getting yourself known to a new audience, so you're new and fresh to that audience. So you might sort of a new audience that's made up of people who would like to be your target audience, but it's fresh new people who haven't seen your content before. So again, those collaborations, but I would say, this is more for businesses with bigger budgets, but actually the car journey itself is understanding where they're going, because again, when you're thinking about billboard advertising and things like that, but it was also thinking about what they're listening to in the car as well. And I was talking to somebody, they don't have huge budgets, but again, going back to radio advertising, and I think what they've come up with, the brand they've come up with is perfect for radio. It's something that's going to be memorable, it's something that people actually actively look for, and the name they've chosen is something that people are going to remember. And radio, I think it's often overlooked as a media, and I think it can be, especially if you're going for the smaller local radios, if that's appropriate, it can be more cost effective than you think as well.
Yeah, and I was going to say, actually, local radios at the moment have got some really good deals on.
Have they?
So don't dismiss them. Yeah, and always talk it through. You know, don't take. I'm not saying that they will drop the price, but don't. So I know sometimes we're guilty of looking things up on the web, and you see a price, you immediately go, "That's not for me." You need to research, why is it not for you? Find out what the audience is. If it's a good fit and there's a deal on, why wouldn't you consider it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially as you say, the key point here is if it's a good fit, it does fit what your strategy and your aims and your goals. And yes, absolutely. Again, I think when talking about, a lot of people shy away from putting themselves forward for interviews, sending content into radios and sort of magazines and local papers and things like that. So putting you very much a PR hat on, what kind of advice would you give? Because again, then you can go onto social media and share that content, and that could help cut through.
I haven't even touched on that, but there's endless possibilities. I think
we've got time.
Once you've got whether it's a press release written, or just even some facts that you're perhaps not confident that are suitable for the press, as in it hasn't been turned into an official press release. It's all valid content for your social media to share, and it doesn't have to be always, look at me, I'm in the press. There are other ways of doing it. But back to answer your question, I think there's a lot of us out there it's quite nice to hide behind your business and don't want to put themselves forward for interviews. Talk to me, and that's not as a sales pitch. I'm very happy to give advice. It's probably easier to give examples and give advice one-to-one. I'm very happy to have a chat over the phone. But I think, again, it's a matter of making sure that your story is suitable. So just I think we've all got a story in us, and by a story I mean a news article, or a sort of something that's ready for a publication or a website. It's a matter of just making sure it's interesting enough and it's relevant, and I'd say those are the key
but
words.
not to shy away. I think yes, I think you're right, it needs to be relevant, it needs to be in the right format for the editors who are incredibly busy to pick up, but editors need, and that's just my understanding, they're always on the lookout for good content.
Absolutely.
And you know, more so than I think we probably actually think and realize. So so if you can get your content in the right format that they will pick it up, then
yes,
it's
and well written content they love, because it makes their life a lot easier too. They're incredibly busy, they're bombarded by hundreds of emails every day, so if yours stand out and is well written, then they're more likely to consider that for publication. Plus, once you start building the relationship, they'll come to you for a quote or something when that topic comes up again.
Brilliant, fantastic. If I say we've not had any questions, but if you do, I think, was there anything else you wanted to chat about, Fiona, while we're here?
Well, I hope that's just really given some good points and insights.
I think it certainly has.
That sort of that blur that is social media, and I think it's often a blur, but it's a particular blur at the moment. Just to make sure that you're just really clear. I think that's the other thing, and it's not about mud on the wall and throwing enough
and throwing spaghetti
out there and hope
sticks,
pick something up.
It's about having a plan. And so yeah, Fiona said she's quite happy to, sorry, bless me, she's quite happy to sort of pick up the phone if anyone wants to have a quick chat through the PR side of things. And again, if you're looking for support with the wider strategy, the wider marketing strategy, thinking about your marketing and what you're doing with your business, then you know, I've got the Power Hours, the discovery packages, also Market Smarter, and the offer is still open because I'm still collecting research pieces for shaping my new marketing workshops. So and I'll add the link below as well, if you haven't filled out and received a discount code yet, you can still fill out the questionnaire and you'll get a 50% discount code until the end of that. So you need to do the survey by the end of August. So there's that option too for Market Smarter as well. Okay.
I've just seen
is there a question?
High tech, just look over to my
that's my not. There's more come in. Oh, there is a question.
Oh, here we go.
Yes, thank you, Nicola.
Thank you. Planning post or spontaneous? I'd say plan from a strategy point of view, and going back to being clear on your messaging and clear on who you're trying to target, but also clear on your aims. So if for example you're wanting to get people to sign up to a course, for example, rather than sell, you'll want to have a plan, a sort of sales funnel, if you like, that will involve your social media. So you need to plan it, in which case go through one of the scheduling tools, and I can talk about that again. I don't want to sort of assume you all know, but
yeah, just talk through. I think we've got some time if you want to mention some of those.
So for example, Hootsuite is a really good scheduling tool. It's free. You can post across several platforms. There's suddenly, I keep thinking about so many other things I want to. So with all your platforms,
we can have you on again.
with your platform, I was going to say, to make sure that, because this is back to tone of voice again, each platform will have a slightly different, because it's got a different audience, a slightly different tone of voice. So you might want to think about tweaking each of your posts to each platform. But let's keep it simple. Where are most of your customers on? Which platform they're on? Go with that one. Have a strategy, plan your posts, but be spontaneous in checking your feed, replying to people, and then it might be something comes off of that, but that's a sort of an aside. So you've still got your plan of attack, that's scheduled, and then you've got your engagement, your human touch, if you like, your personal touch through the spontaneity
as well. Okay, would you be against occasionally if an opportunity comes up? Because what I always say about planning, so a lot of people shy away from planning because they go, okay, I've got a plan, I must stick to it. For me, what I say to that is, yes, you have the plan, you have the foundation, but part of the reason for the plan is it allows you to be spontaneous but in a structured way. So so it's, you can, if the opportunity comes up to post something that's not in your plan, you can be safe in the fact that you're posting the right thing because you know who you're targeting.
Yes.
You know what you're saying. So to an extent, the answer is yes, to an extent, to both, Nicola. But yes, you need them. What Fiona said is absolutely true. But I think also don't be feared of putting a plan. It's rigid. Actually having the plan allows you to be spontaneous, but in a constructive way.
Plus the fact that it's all done and it frees up your time. Otherwise, if you're trying to do posts every day, it can take up so long, and then you lose your thread. What was my message yesterday? But again, going back to what originally where we started, be clear on your messaging, clear on your audience. Once you've got those in place, your content will just flow much more easily.
Fantastic. And we've got one from Rosie here. So how frequently do you think I should post with my fashion range? Tanya knows it. Tanya's wearing it. I think it's Rosie spotted. Don't want to be boring, but don't want to be forgotten. And I've just realised back at the top, that's why it's been hanging too low. It's actually undone. Oh no, Rosie, look, it's on properly now.
It's very nice.
Thank you.
I suppose it depends which platform you're on, Rosie. Are you able to, because there is a sort of rule of thumb, and I know people always worried about posting too often, but actually if you think about it, you think about how many posts don't get seen, you could argue what's too often, and actually if your ideal customer will not find it too often. But I mean, sorry Rosie, if you do, which platform are you on?
What platform? I know Rosie's on Facebook, definitely.
Okay.
She's definitely, she might be on Instagram as well.
Okay, Facebook. So
definitely
again,
on Facebook.
I think you need to think about how long your post lasts for. So for example, Twitter is a few minutes. So actually you can post lots on Twitter. But on Facebook, I think once a day is fine, maybe even, once every a couple of times a week rather, if it's just about having a presence, so that you're not forgotten. But again, I would think about some sort of campaign or strategy, and I'm not trying to sort of bombard you with technicals and science, but if there's a new collection coming out, you drip feed the collection over a number of weeks, or if you're doing an offer, it's about getting all those things in rather than thinking, and I'm sure you don't do this, but I haven't posted today, quick, what am I going to do? Those can work as your spontaneous ones where you're perhaps reacting to something someone else has said, or it's particularly sunny and you suddenly think, oh, I've got some stock of some summer clothes that I want to move on. So you could do that as an aside, but on the whole, think through sort of longer term.
Yeah, absolutely. And as to say, don't feel you have to post because you've got it into your head, I need to post once a day. It's quality, not quantity. And I think as long as if what you're posting is giving people value and is making their interest in, you can tell, and they'll be engaging with the posts, and either directly online or they're telling you through other channels, which quite often happens to me. Somebody won't respond online, but will say that's a fantastic post on a private message or in person, and that's the way they are. As long as you're getting that feedback, keep doing it, keep going.
It's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
I get sort of networking the other day, and people say, "Oh, you're all over LinkedIn," and you think, "Oh, am I? I didn't know that." Because again, perhaps you haven't got the likes that you were expecting, but it's about that's obviously still recognition. That's great. Ideally, we want the engagement, because you need to start the conversations, because that's what then leads to, well, it opens doors and it leads to a sale.
Yeah, I've got hooray from Rosie, so I hopefully, so I think there's some good tips there, Rosie, so I hope that's what you're saying hooray to. And she's put only Facebook. Sorry, Rosie, you're not on Instagram, you're only Facebook. And then we've got one from Audrey. On my business Facebook, I post about other things and not just my business. Then there's more interaction, and every post isn't business, creates more interest. And that's a good point, Audrey.
Yeah. It's a very good point, because actually this is what I was referring to earlier about selling. If every post is selling, there's just a disconnect. But if you can bring your personality into the business, depending on, obviously not everyone can if you're working in a big environment, but from the solopreneur particularly, the interests you've got, if they're in alignment with your business, it makes you human, and people like that, and that's where you get the engagement. So it could be anything from cooking or books. Let's not be too obscure, but all those things, it's a brilliant way of starting a conversation.
Yeah, as you say, if it's relevant, and absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. Audrey, I don't know, what kind of things if you want to stick in the comments, what kind of things do you post about, the other things that you post about? That'd be fascinating to hear. So again, I'll see if we get that. So there's nothing else for now.
If you just bear in mind, there's the 80-20 rule, and that is 80% of the time you're posting engaging content, things that will start a conversation. And again, back to, it needs to be relevant to your business. It doesn't have to be about business or selling, but it needs to be relevant to you as a brand, as a person, to where your position is. And 20% of it can be selling. And that's a really good balance, so just remember that. But it sounds like you've hit the sweet spot. If you're getting lots of engagement from content, that's what it's all about. Well done.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, there's nothing else. What we can do is, if you can post that, then it'll be in the comments, and we can comment on it afterwards. So I think that's probably it for now. We're just after past. So thank you very much. Again, if you've got any more questions, stick them in the comments and we will answer them as and when we can. Thank you to Nicola, Rosie and Audrey for your questions. They were fantastic. Really good to discuss. And we will have you back then, Fiona, because you say there's so much you want to talk about, scheduling and all those kind of things. So we will have you back.
Yeah. I'm pinging information at you, and I'm just thinking I'm probably bombarding people. But I like to talk, as you can tell. So feel free to ask me questions. I am, social media is part of the reputation building and the service I provide. I am not a social media specialist, but from the point of view of what you're putting out from your public face and your perception and your positioning, then I'm very happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And if there's any social media specialists in the group that would like to chat more about the actual, go more into the technical side, because again, there's so much more that we could be talking about this, then drop me a note and I'll be happy to have you on. So, but thank you now again, Fiona, for another fascinating chat, and we will have you back at some point. And again, thank you to everyone who's been watching. Brilliant.
Lovely.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.